Hi, I'm Mike Hendrickson from Fluent 2016 in San Francisco. I'm here with Matt from Heroku. How you doing?
Yeah. Good, thank you. Good.
So, single-page apps seem to be very popular. What's up with that?
What's up with that? So, developers are always trying to satiate their users. You know, users are, I don't know if you've, do you have children? It's a personal question.
5 of them.
5 children, okay. Busy guy. So, if you've ever seen them use a device, they're more and more demanding of the applications they use. And a lot of that demand is in how interactive and engaging those applications are. And it's hard to build an engaging application that lives on the server. If it lives on the client, then all of the responses, you imagine those responses are being generated on the client, are going to happen much faster. And so really, I think a lot of users think that developers, if the power is all in their hands, but really it's about what the users actually want, and we just build it.
So why is that giving rise to them becoming so popular?
So if you want to create an application that is engaging and interactive and fast, you're going to do that on the client. And that's what a single page app is. A single page app is an application that lives on the client rather than on the server.
Yeah, interesting. So if I'm building that app that's going to sit on that client, I'm going to probably use a framework to build it.
Yep, you're going to use,
React, Angular,
Ember, any of the others that have died over the last 5 years.
Exactly. How do I know which one is right for me?
So, part of that decision, let me just say this, of the 3 frameworks, you almost can't make a bad decision at this point. They've all reached a point of maturity that I think any company would be happy with. But these frameworks, they've grown from different communities. You look at the Ruby community and their philosophy about building or programming in a way that is joyful. Syntax that looks like the English language. That's kind of their philosophy. And Heroku's been inspired by that philosophy. It's a Japanese philosophy. And that's the philosophy that Ember's come out of. So if you're in the Ruby community, then the framework that you're probably going to go to is going to be the Ember community. And you look at a lot of the people that built that framework, they're Yehuda Katz and Tom Dale. They're people who are already community leaders in the Ruby community. And then if you flip over and you look at React, well, React is coming from this place of, number one, Facebook sponsors and builds React. So that's a framework that probably isn't going anywhere. And then you've got Angular, that's coming from Google. So they have these big corporate sponsors in some cases, which makes them very dependable. They've got teams, large teams working on them. There's a lot of reasons you might pick a framework, and probably no wrong choice.
So the framework also has a community built around it, so that's part of your choice likely, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So how does Heroku decide which open source tools and frameworks and communities to get involved with?
Right. We try very hard not to. Heroku is really supposed to be a playground for everybody. We support almost every modern programming language, Ruby, Java, or all the JVMs, Python, whichever language you're using, we want Heroku to feel like home. And I think the same is true when you're working with front-end open source libraries like React, Ember, and Angular. We don't want you to use Heroku and have to pick. We want you to be able to choose the framework that's right for you and still benefit from using Heroku.
Excellent. So you just did a meetup, right?
Yeah.
And was it on React?
It was on React, yeah.
And so did you learn anything from that, or was there good feedback? Or
So, yeah, number one, O'Reilly's doing they have this new, I'm not even sure what to call it. It's different to any other meetup I've ever been to, where really you don't have somebody giving a presentation. You're trying to connect people in the audience and let them speak about their personal experiences, which is just really valuable. I thought, honestly, that the React community had kind of stabilized around a few well-known design patterns, but in fact, that's not the case. Everybody in this room is doing something differently. And they're using different tools and different technologies, and they love different tools and different technologies. So it kind of demonstrated to me that maybe the community is a little bit less mature than I thought it was, but that all of these tools are viable, and that's pretty cool.
So you said when you used React. Are
right.
you a part of the React
community? I like to
community?
think of myself as part of the React community. Yeah, if you look at a lot of what we're doing, even at this conference, we have this application called Wish You Were Here, which you basically you deploy it to Heroku, you take a picture, you add some emojis, and you send it to your friends that couldn't make it to the conference. And that's been built with React.
And so how did you fall into using React? Because your decision to
Yeah, I guess it is my decision. So I think I started in the Angular community, and there was a point in the Angular community that I wanted to do things that were I wanted a slicker interface. That's quite honestly it. I just wanted a better interface. And at the time, React actually, it's not a framework, it deals with just rendering. And they have this framework called Flux that you kind of put the two together, and what you get is the equivalent probably to something like Angular or Ember. And so React popped up, and I was like, oh, this is a really cool rendering engine. It feels really slick and fast. And I started using it, and I just kind of never looked back.
So were there questions about how Heroku deals with the frameworks at this meetup?
I think so. I mean, there was a lot of questions about how you deploy or how you should deploy a universal app. And a universal application is an application that it's a single page app, which again live on the client, but that's rendered on the server. One of the fallbacks of single page apps is that when you visit the page at first, it has to load a lot more, there's a lot more resources and assets being loaded up front. And people are kind of chasing this really fast load time initially, that initial page load. And so universal rendering kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You get to, on the server, you render, and then you push all that stuff up to the client. It's super snappy and fast, and then it's interactive, because the rest of it's happening on the client.
So the single page app seems like it almost could be really great, but also be like one of your biggest burdens.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Because if you're loading everything up front in one page, is performance going to take a hit?
Well, that's kind of that's why it's interesting, because we went from the server to the client, and now we're kind of going back to the server. But we've learned a lot while we were up front, and so we're taking those things and we're saying, okay, so we kind of went to one extreme, we've gone to the other extreme, and now we're meeting in the middle. And the middle looks like we render initially on the server. We push all that stuff up to the client, and now what we have is this really fast interactive experience.
Sounds a little bit like our political process. We go to the extremes and then we meet in the middle, and there we are.
There is no Trump in the React community.
Oh, good, good. Is there any community that has the?
I can't comment. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So, if you look at the meetup today, what would you, if you do a meetup next year, what would you do that might be different?
Oh boy. I think I would really like to bring a few of the React core team into the meetup. If we're going to have these meetups, I know the Angular meetup actually has some of the core folks. And I think that'd be really valuable, because a lot of it is just you're kind of talking about the decisions that have been made in the framework, and the only people that can speak to those decisions are the people that made them. And so bringing those people in and letting them talk about why those decisions were made, I think would be invaluable.
Exactly, the trade-offs,
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Matt, we look forward to that conversation next year.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you.